Welcome to Pixels, where we explore the heart and art of photography. I'm Beth Buelow, and I'm really grateful you decided to join me today. I'm really pleased to welcome Eric Bennett to the podcast. Eric is a full-time nature photographer and writer focusing on protecting the last few wild places we still have left, namely in the desert Southwest. Apart from his own conservation efforts, he has worked alongside organizations like the Wilderness Society, the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, Quiet Parks International, and Grand Staircase-Escalante Partners, sharing his photographs and essays to show the value of a pristine wilderness. Eric has authored 4 books, his latest works being Space, Stillness, Silence, The Solace of the Desert, and Moments Within the Earth. Eric also regularly teaches workshops both in the field and online in order to help other photographers find and achieve their own artistic vision in order to make a bigger impact on the world. I have his book right here, and it is a gorgeous work of art in its own right. Eric and I cover a lot of ground in this conversation, and we would love to know what your takeaways were, what you found meaningful or useful, or even what questions it raised. Your likes and shares are always welcome, especially because they help this content to be found by other people. Be sure to subscribe so that you're notified of future episodes. Now, on to the conversation. Hey, Eric, it is so good to see you. Welcome to Pixels. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, me too. Glad we could line it up finally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I like to start out by asking about what is giving you energy right now?
Well, it's the end of the fall season, so I've been out a lot. This is the time of year where I at least try to get out as much as possible because I feel like starting in late September all the way through November, there's just an abundance of subject matter where I live in Utah. So it starts up in the mountains with aspen trees and stuff, and then I'll slowly work my way down to the desert. And I just got back yesterday from a really nice fall trip out there, and I'm heading back out tomorrow to do some backpacking for a few days to finish it off.
Nice.
Yeah, that always gets me really excited. And yeah, it's my favorite time of year for sure.
Yeah, I had my first experience of the quaking aspens just at the beginning of October in Colorado, and it was just absolutely stunning. So I totally get that energizing feel you get from it.
Where do you live?
I live in Michigan.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, that makes
we
sense then.
also,
For some reason,
yeah,
I thought you were out here in the Southwest, but
I've actually made it out there quite a bit this year, and I'm getting ready to head out to White Sands next week. So
nice.
I'm really excited about that because I've never been. But yeah, in Michigan, we've got absolutely beautiful color season,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very different than what you get in the mountains and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah.
how do you approach winter? What's your relationship to that from a photography perspective?
I really love every season. There's something special about each one, but
Mhm.
I feel like I especially like the fall just because it just seems like there's something really captivating anywhere you look. And I love the weather. Like it's a lot
Yeah.
cooler, but it's not too
Mhm.
cold. It's just like very comfortable for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love every season. Like I went to Japan last winter and had an amazing time, and I'm going back there again this winter. I live in the Wasatch Mountains in Utah, so we get a fair amount of snow. And so
Yeah.
I like to go out and snowshoe and uh, just be out and stuff. Yeah, I don't really have like a particular approach or anything. I just try to get outside as much as possible all year round. So I just kind of do whatever I need to be comfortable and, pack different things and whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you live by that saying I've heard. What is it? There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing or
right,
poor
exactly.
attire choices.
Yeah, you just got to be prepared for the right things. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like every winter before it comes around, I say like, oh, I'm going to get out a bunch and like go backpacking in the snow and stuff. And then I never end up doing as much as I hope to because it's just so easy to stay at home and drink hot coffee and edit photos or
Yeah.
something. So you can get really
Yeah.
comfortable. And I do have to push myself a bit more to get out. But
Yeah.
in the desert here in southern Utah, like typically there are Um, every now and then, like it'll snow and stuff down there, but typically winter's pretty mild still, so it's still really comfortable and pretty easy to get out and go camping and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. You're in
yeah, I feel fortunate
in
for
a
that.
nice spot for that the all
Hmm.
seasons year round kind of
Yeah,
opportunities.
you can still have like 60-degree days in the winter and like
Ooh,
doesn't get below freezing at night, but it can also
that
get in
sounds,
single digits and stuff. So you just never know.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I won't tell you about Michigan then because we have
Yeah.
our maybe more than our fair share of some 20s and 30s and single digits. But
Yeah, you get
yeah,
punished.
we do get a little bit punished, but we get paid off in the summer with,
Yeah.
just gorgeous weather and those beautiful fall colors and whatnot. So it's all, it's all good. I want to talk to you about your relationship with nature. Like I was asking about winter, but let's expand that because it's really clear from what you've shared with me, what I've read in your writing and seen in your images, that having that relationship with nature is extremely important to you. And I was looking at some of your essays that you've written for the Nature Photography Network. And there was one called Look Again, where you wrote, I photograph nature because I love nature, not photography. But practicing photography while in nature has caused me to look into it more deeply, carefully observing and noticing its nuances and subtle details that most people overlook. What kinds of practices or approaches do you integrate into your process to help you to put nature first and to facilitate that deeper connection?
That's kind of a trick question because I don't do anything intentionally. It's just
Mm,
really that's what takes priority.
yeah.
That's why I go out camping and that's why I go outside. It's never with the intention primarily to make photographs. That's just something that inevitably happens because it's like impossible for me to not find something interesting that makes me want to use my camera as this tool of deeper observation to study it further. And so photography is just something that happens. It's never my motivation. So there
Mm,
aren't really specific things I put into practice to stay that way. That's just naturally how it is. And
yeah.
I've been practicing like videography, photography my whole life ever since I was a little kid. So it's something I definitely enjoy. But I did start to feel kind of burnt out back in like 2016,
Mhm.
going into 2017 with nature photography. I'd been to a ton of different places. Um, I'd taken a ton of photos. I had like this big portfolio and everything, but it was just starting to feel like a grind. And I
Mhm.
realized, especially now looking back, what had happened is my priorities had shifted and photography was kind of inhibiting me from enjoying nature as much as I wanted to. It was kind of a distraction instead of something that was helping me immerse myself further. So I just flipped it around and I said, all I'm going to worry about is going places that I want to spend time in, being where I want to be, doing what I want to do. And I will just kind of have faith because I do make my living from photography that photography will just naturally happen. And that has only benefited my photography. Like caring less about photography has made me a better photographer, as
Yeah.
ironic as that sounds.
Yeah. No, would you say a little bit more about that? Like what have you noticed in terms of the shift?
I think I find more scenes that are naturally captivating. So, what I mean by that is if you have your camera out first and you start hiking down a trail, you're naturally looking to make photographs. You're seeing what you can use around you to make an interesting photograph. So, you're trying to turn your surroundings into something.
Mm,
Whereas if you're
mhm.
not thinking about photography at all, you're just walking around, observing openly, and then things that catch your eye will catch your eye for a reason, being because the light is isolating them or it's just a naturally interesting thing. And so then you use your camera to record that. So it's
Mhm.
like you just find things that are already interesting or already captivating to you because they naturally call your attention. You're not trying to make something interesting, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so then all the work is done. You just need to put four edges around it and there you
Mhm.
go. Instead of, oh, this is cool, but maybe the lighting isn't quite right. How can I make it like, yeah. So anyways, I just find that, it's just a much more natural process where like things that interest me personally automatically stand out. And then, yeah, I just take a picture of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like letting
What I
nature do all the work.
Exactly. And that really is like putting nature first as opposed to the photography or the camera,
Mm-hmm.
just seeing the camera as a tool to facilitate documenting what you are pulled by and maybe seeing more with your heart than with the camera. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, instead of trying to make something interesting, it's just allow
mhm.
yourself to be interested, like without having to try. And
Yeah.
so when I take a photograph of something, it's because I can't help it. It's not like, oh, I
Mhm.
guess I could produce something out of this. It's just like, if I don't stop and get my camera out and photograph this like scene or moment that's occurring in front of me, I'm going to regret it. Like it's going to bother me
Yeah.
the rest of the day. So like
Yeah.
I only do it when I absolutely feel like I have to.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
like before, when I was intentionally trying to make photographs, I just felt like they were a lot more contrived. So like there would be some interesting elements, but it wasn't all coming together. And that's what I mean. Like I would hunt for interesting things, find a cool subject, but maybe I'm not there at the right moment. And, behind me, I'm not noticing something else that's being hit by like the most complementary perfect lighting because, I'm
Yeah.
too tunnel vision. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I mean.
Do you find as a profession, you make your living from photography?
Yeah.
When you're out there, even when you are letting nature lead in terms of what captures your attention, do you find yourself ever thinking about this would make a great print or this is going to do well in this particular context that has to do more with your business than perhaps just being captivated by the moment?
I don't. No.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you, has it always been that way? Or how did you, like, because I'm thinking, I know myself sometimes I'm like, oh, that would look really good, whatever.
Yeah.
I can see some people even saying like, oh, this is going to do really well on Instagram. So,
Gross.
you have, I know it is gross, right? But it's human and it's kind of what we've been like social media is sort of
Yes.
warped our perception of what we're seeing and how we might relate to it. It sounds like that's not an issue for you. Was it ever an issue? Or just like, what would you, yeah, what maybe guidance or words of insight you might have if somebody is feeling that way?
So there is a huge advantage that comes with having experience. And by experience, I'm just referring to the amount of time you've been doing something for. So, as like when you first start out, or I'll just talk about myself. When I first started out, I was very excited to accrue images and create a portfolio and have a website with sub galleries and, just have like a nice size portfolio with nice variety and everything to represent what I was trying to do and like represent my whole, philosophy and perspective with art and everything. So I was kind of going out and trying to make that happen. After 5 or so years, if you spend enough time doing this, and granted, like I've been doing this full time, so this is what I spend the most time doing. You eventually get to a point where you don't need any more images. Your portfolio is actually too big, and you're
Mhm.
constantly trying to curate and get rid of stuff as opposed to adding stuff. So you naturally become more picky about what you add because you don't need to. So you're only going to add images that really complement the portfolio, and then you're going to get rid of anything that isn't at that same quality. So that just naturally shifts your perspective because now it's like you can be more selective in the field. You're not as worried or anxious about producing when you go out. And so, yeah, I just think there's a natural shift where when you don't need to create images for any reason, you already have enough. Yeah, it just naturally changes your process and how you think about things.
Yeah. So, speaking as someone who is in that process of building a body of work, still feels like I'm
Mm-hmm.
in that portfolio building phase. And I'm thinking a lot of folks are. What can we learn from where you are with that experience that might benefit us in perhaps lifting some of that trying piece? Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's something, like I said, there's not really any way around things that require experience. Like there's no
Hmm.
shortcuts when you just need to
Hmm.
put in the hours and you need to uh, just go through all of that. It's just a necessary process. I think for some people, it extends longer than it needs to. Other
Mhm.
people, maybe they rush through it too fast. But I think the one thing I could say is just like believing, like the more you try to force things, the less you're going to get from it, because you're just going to be
Mhm.
creating work that feels contrived. It's not personal. And you need to trust that quality will come from having quality experiences and like photographing things that you're naturally excited about and genuinely interested in. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, there's no reason to hope for other people to be interested or excited about stuff that you're making if you aren't yourself. So
Yeah.
like you should always have that as your guide, or that should be what dictates how you act and everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I kind of hear underneath all that is like patience. I'm thinking
Absolutely.
like it takes the time it takes, and to not force it, to not rush it, to just relax and maybe even enjoy the process of building that voice and portfolio and identity.
Yeah, there like I that time of my life was exciting. I'm not
Hmm.
trying to act like, oh, I wasn't enjoying photography at all and then now I can
Hmm.
finally enjoy it. It's like there's just different
Right.
stages and they're all different, and you
Hmm.
grow as a person, hopefully, if you allow yourself
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Um and you're constantly exploring things. So I think it's also important to just enjoy whatever stage of that process you're in and accept it. Because also, if you're just naturally feeling a certain way, but you want to be feeling a different way, that's not super conducive to like creating genuine work or like
Hmm.
letting things flow. And so just kind of
Yeah.
knowing like whatever stage you're in, you'll eventually move on to another one, and just
Right.
to try and enjoy it as much as possible.
Yep. Yep. In coaching, we have a phrase, trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like that applies in what you're talking about here. And so this is actually a good segue to my next question, since we were talking about sort of portfolios and bodies of work. And apologies in advance for this kind of long preamble to set up the question.
I'll try to
But this
follow
comes
along as best as I
okay,
can.
okay. Well, most of it is your words. So, but it's another insightful post that you did for Nature Photography Network, and it was called "Turning Down the Volume." And you draw on the metaphor of heavy metal music to describe what I was identifying as two photography pitfalls that are easy to fall into. One is over processing to get attention, or maybe forcing things. And the other one is sticking to the same visual notes because they're familiar or comfortable, or maybe they perform well.
Yeah.
And one statement that you wrote stood out to me. You said, for a body of work to be compelling, visually pleasing, and continually interesting from the first image to the last, there needs to be a lot of variety from each image to the next in scenes, lighting, processing, simplicity, mood, and color. This demands much more from the artist rather than letting them play the same note time and time again, merely repeating what they know best. So here's one reason it stood out to me. I mean, I love that idea. And in contrast to that, I often hear advice about niching. And often in photography, that means like developing your look so that when I see a photo, I'm like, that's an Eric Bennett, or oh, that's a Beth Buelow, or that's a Cole Thompson, or that's an Alex Noriega. And as someone who likes to play and is sometimes hesitant to break from the images that I feel like others expect of me, which as I hear that, I know that that's even a problematic mindset. But that call for variety it's like it gives me permission to explore all of those different voices. And it makes me a little nervous because when I think of building a cohesive body of work, I'm wondering how the variety that you describe can be part of that. And so, what guidance, and if I'm interpreting this right, and I might be missing something. So, what say you basically about that kind of friction, at least that I'm naming?
So, like, I think I really appreciate unique, different, varied, like, work in any kind of medium.
Hmm.
However, I'm not a proponent of being different for the sake of being different, or having variety for the sake of having variety. So, what I mean by that is just not pigeonholing yourself and saying, oh, I'm the there's a dumb example, but like I'm the maple leaf guy, so
Hmm.
I'm not going to photograph any aspen leaves. Or I'm the Colorado Rockies guy, so I'm not going to photograph the Rockies in Utah. Or,
Hmm.
I think any kind of niche that is intentional is just a gimmick, to be honest. So style isn't something that you decide on and then act upon it and try to go in that specific direction. Style is something that unfolds naturally. It's like the shadow that follows you wherever you go. And it just naturally develops by, like, it's going to develop in the best way and the most comprehensively by following your interests, by photographing things that naturally excite you and things that you personally find captivating and that you see in your own way, because that's just going to be unique. Like, I think uniqueness and variety, those are just byproducts. They're not something that you should intentionally try to do. It's just don't inhibit yourself from them, is what I mean. So don't hold yourself back. And you're just naturally going to have whatever style you have. It shouldn't be an intentional decision to have a certain kind of style.
Yeah. 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 Because again, that's part of the theme of forcing it in a way. And it's something that if it's going to be authentic, it's going to arise organically. Yeah. And, you know, one thing I've been thinking a lot about this voice and this idea of like a unique voice. And I think that's part of what puts pressure on us. Like, I've got to be different from everybody else. And therefore we force it. And I've come to start thinking of it more as our individual voice.
Yeah, you inevitably are different, whether you like it or not. You're not the same as
Exactly.
everybody else. And so as long as you don't try to act the same as everyone else, you're going to be different because that's what you are.
Exactly. You can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for elaborating on that a bit, because it is a point of tension sometimes that I know I feel and that I sometimes hear from others. All right, so let's look at some of your images. And I always ask folks to share images that kind of represent some sort of shift or pivot in their journey. So, what is the story behind this one?
Yeah. So it's actually kind of difficult to choose images based on that idea because, like, there weren't really any specific images where it's like, oh, that was a moment where I had this paradigm shift. It's
Right.
more like, things just happen gradually. And then looking back, you can notice your transformation and evolution. I just picked some images that I'm like particularly fond of for some reason, maybe the trip that I made them on. And this is one of those. This was a photograph I made in a desert canyon in the fall back in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And it was my first time in that canyon in the fall. And I had just thought, like, oh, there's a lot of, like, I'd been there before, but in the summertime. And I just thought, oh, there's a lot of vegetation down there. I wonder what it would look like in the fall because there's a lot of deciduous trees. And so I went out there and I was just mind blown. Like, it was inconceivably beautiful, insane. And so that place has kind of become like a yearly pilgrimage for me. I've gone back there almost every fall since then. I'm actually headed there tomorrow with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
it's just a really special place. And that was a trip where I, a ton of new photographs. I created like an entire collection in like 5 days because there was just an abundance of subject matter everywhere. Like, and this is where I found this kind of subject matter that people, I don't know. I think when people think of my images, they think of at least one of these types of photos of iridescent biofilm, like the cover of Conversations with Nature has another photograph I made on this trip. And this was the trip and place where I found like the most extensive puddles with that phenomenon. So I was just like blown away, found it super intriguing, made lots of photographs like these. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful, peaceful trip. I really connected with nature on a deeper level that time. And this is kind of where I would say my evolution with like intimate photography, smaller scenes and things really took a leap.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about as I was looking at this, because so many landscape photographers start with the epic big landscape wide angle and narrow down. So
And that's definitely what I did as well.
okay, and this is part of that evolution. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, this
yeah.
was just a trip where it was really conducive to that kind of photography. There was just tons of like really small amazing details that I wanted to zoom in on. And yeah, just a lot of things clicked for me. And kind of a caveat, or like just like a funny little thing about this trip was the very first day I got there and I set up my camera on my tripod. My tripod was as tall as it goes. Camera with my telephoto lens was mounted on the tripod. And I wanted to switch to a wider lens for the scene. So I turned around to get the wide lens out of my backpack, and I just hear this whack, like
Oh,
so loud, echoing through the canyon. And I
oh,
turn around and my telephoto lens is rolling on the ground. It had snapped off of my camera. Uh, the LCD screen is completely broken, like hanging off the back of the camera.
oh
I was like,
no.
oh my God, like I'm such an idiot. And I pick it back up. Luckily, I was able to mount my lens back on. The lens wasn't
Yeah.
broken. And that's the lens that I used to photograph like all these scenes that trip.
Wow.
Camera was still working, but obviously no LCD screen. And then the viewfinder had like a decent size, like black spot on it where I couldn't
Oh
see anything. So I
no.
had a blind spot. So I actually photographed all the images, like my book cover and everything, and this entire collection with a very broken, destroyed camera. But
Wow. Yeah. As soon as you said tripod as tall as it goes, that's when my heart
yeah,
started going, oh, yeah. Wow. And so there's, there's something there about the other thing I hear a lot is like embracing limitations. And suddenly you had limitations of some kind that you weren't planning on,
yeah,
including that big black spot, but you just okay, I can still do this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wish I could say that's the last time that happened too. But like I just broke two lenses somehow on my last trip.
Oh,
I didn't even
oh
know they were
man.
broken. But
Yikes. Yikes.
yeah, I'm always destroying gear.
Yeah. So this is a practical question. I assume it's all insured.
Not right now, unfortunately. But
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure I had insurance back then. But I was still there. Like, that didn't help me in the moment. I
Right.
had like
Right.
5 more days backpacking and wanted to take
Yeah.
pictures.
Yeah. Well, it's really, yeah, that's like the story of just work with what you've got.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of accept what is and not wish that it were different. Because I'm sure
Yeah.
you didn't like having the black spot, but it's just like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, and I could have easily just been like, oh, well, here's my excuse. I'm hiking back out. But
exactly.
again, I wasn't there for photography. So I was like, okay, at the very
Hmm.
least, I'm still going to enjoy this place because it's incredibly beautiful and it feels good
Yeah.
to be here. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, anyways,
Very
just a
cool.
funny little note about that.
Yeah. And a bit of a cautionary tale. Tell us about this image.
So this one I made back in 2021, I think. And I remember exactly where I was, and I was just wandering through this canyon, and I just came upon this scene that was just like mind bending. One of those scenes where you can't quite understand it in person, even while you're photographing it.
Yeah.
So, like, I know all the context, I know what is outside of the frame, and it still was just very mesmerizing and
Yeah.
abstract. And so, like, especially like I just isolated it with my telephoto lens like this, and I just remember looking back and forth at it, and I'm like, how is this even the same thing? Like, this is so crazy. But this was the image that really set the stage for the kind of subject matter in my second book, Spaced on the Silence. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I made this image, and it just kind of got things moving in that direction. And I feel like because of this, like, this was like a catalyst image. It really kind of helped me see things in a different way and create the rest of Spaced on the Silence, which I'm really proud of.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have it. It's a beautiful book and I meant to have it like right here with me. I didn't bring it downstairs, but yeah, it's a gorgeous book
Thank you.
and you're raising one of the questions that popped up for me earlier, so I'm going to go with it
Mm-hmm.
about projects or seeing, deciding or not deciding, but just embarking on some sort of cohesive project like a book. Since we were talking about
Yeah,
like not forcing it, but then if you have an idea, how do you keep yourself from forcing it?
sure. So when I say that this image like inspired the rest of the imagery, like the feel of the rest of the book, it was more like this image created a criteria for the kind of imagery I would include in the book. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go out and make more images like this now.
Right.
It was just like, okay, this is the feeling that I want to show. This is like the level of uniqueness and personality that I want to exhibit in this body of work. So I'm only going to include images that I happen to make that are like this in some way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I just didn't want to have anything generic. It's not like it caused me to actively avoid photographing anything or made me want to photograph anything in particular. It just became the criteria for what I was going to put in the book and what I would leave out.
Yeah. And it seems like it's a very helpful curating tool. And
yeah, you need some kinds of limitations, like some kind of framework. So like I just turned in the last file for my second cozy book that is being printed like in a week. I could have made that book any amount of pages I wanted to. Nobody said it only has to be how many pages is it? 48, I think. I think there's 45 images. It was just that's how the first one was, which felt good for that body of work. And I didn't want it to be too big because I don't want it to feel like my other books. I want it to be a different kind of project that I'm doing. So I was just like, I'm just going to stick with that same amount, which is going to force me to curate it and only include things like, you know, what I feel is most necessary in order to convey the message that I'm trying to convey with that body of work. So it is good to like set those limitations for yourself. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself like, well, I can just add more and more and more. And you're not really going to have any kind of a hard cutoff point because who doesn't want to keep making photographs and trying to make something better and better and better? Because like that's another thing with projects. They take a lot of time typically. Like Space on the Silence took me like 7 years of photography. Wow. You naturally get better. And the images I made in that last year are like, I don't know, 50% of the imagery in the book because like I was just in the zone. And like as soon as I sent in the book to print, like the next few trips I went on, I had stuff that I was like, man, that would have been great if I could have put that in the book. Like by the time the book came out, I felt like the stuff I was releasing was like, I don't want to say better, but you know what I mean? Like just.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Like I could have made a second one in like 6 months instead of like 7 years or something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's another piece of evidence to it takes the time it takes. And to have that patience, knowing that your vision, your skill, your eye is going to evolve over time and not rush it because we can get very impatient. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But yeah, we can get impatient and just want to make something. Here's a follow-up question maybe to the project. I've heard photographers working in different ways, whether it's, okay, there's an image that's a catalyst or an idea that's a catalyst, and then they go out and they have that criteria in mind and they're creating that body of work with that project in mind versus I'm looking in my catalog and it might be over the past 5 years or something like that. And I'm seeing a theme that maybe I wasn't aware of in the field, but now I look at it and I'm like, wow, that would really hang together well. Do you ever work that way as well?
Oh no, that's actually how my projects take shape. So I just go out in the field because I want to be outside and I want to commune with nature. And I just make the images that I happen to make. As I create new images, I upload them all to this like broad gallery. So I can see all of them next to each other. So there might be stuff from the Utah mountains, like aspen trees, stuff in the desert of canyons, some badland stuff. There might be some stuff from the coast in there. There might be some stuff from Olympic, like really green, lush rainforest. But what I like to do is be able to recognize relationships between some of the images. And so then I'll see like, oh, there's a cool theme naturally emerging from these 20 or so images, and I'll take those out and put them somewhere else. And then as I create more images, some of those will naturally fit into that same idea. I have a bunch of different themes all the time that are evolving simultaneously. And so as I create work, it just naturally fits into those things. I'm never out specifically trying to create work for a specific theme that I've predetermined.
Okay.
But like for example, like Spaced on the Silence, that was a book that I made because I had already been spending most of my time in the desert and I was drawn there. during that time period more than anywhere else. And so I already had hundreds of images of that area. And I had actually thought about making a book on a different theme. Like I was working on something else, but then with the pandemic and stuff, that was kind of all I could do. And I was like, well, I'll just do this because this is what I'm doing. Like I'll just
Yeah.
focus on this instead of, hoping I could be doing something else. So yeah, my projects form naturally. They're never something that it's never a concept that I create and then try to go and make images that fit that concept.
Yeah. 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 Thanks for expanding on that.
For sure.
Because I think sometimes we think it is. It's like, oh, I have this idea. Now I'm going to go execute it.
There's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
photographers do that. But what I enjoy is not having any kinds of, I just want to be as free as possible, as open-minded as possible while I'm out in nature, so that I don't ignore things based on something I'm trying to find, or I'm not going to pass something because it doesn't fit into the project I'm currently working on. Like, I just want to be completely open to explore anything I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's how I approach it.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. Tell us about this one.
Well, we were just talking about the book. This is the cover of Spaced on the Silence.
Yes.
But this was just such a funny image because it's since become like, again, another one of those like iconic Eric Bennett photos, according to other people. That's not something I decided on, but like people always bring this one up in conversation, or, it just, I don't know, there's just like a certain look to it or whatever that people associate with my work. And I printed it in my bedroom, actually, 60 by 40. So it's an image I love as well. But the backstory of this is just, I was climbing up to this high point in these Badlands because I thought it could look cool from up high. And on my way up there, I saw this scene, set up my tripod, put my camera on my tripod, framed it, took an exposure, and then picked up my tripod and kept going. And so like, there wasn't any like refining, wasn't any like playing around with it, like any super careful attention. It was just a very fluid moment that has also become like the main, I guess, like the main philosophy behind my work, like this openness to experience, this openness to spontaneity. Because something I realized was the images I ended up loving the most were ones that I never expected, that just happened serendipitously. And so I then was very careful to always allow for those kinds of things to happen. And so my travel plans and everything became based around that, as opposed to like being in specific places at specific times. I've just tried to create as much room for spontaneity as I possibly can now.
Yeah.
And that's how I make images like these. And so it was just kind of like eye-opening. It's just something I lean into, like kind of the stuff, I don't know, just not thinking too much about things and just naturally reacting to what you see. It wasn't a scene where I was like, oh, this is a fantastic image while I was shooting it. Or like, I almost didn't even remember it. When I came home and I saw it on my SD card, I was like, oh yeah, that's that photo I took like when I was hiking and I stopped for literally 30 seconds. But, it became like the cover of my book and I loved it. And anyways, I don't know. I just feel like that might be beneficial for people to hear. Like, I think sometimes these images that gain a lot of popularity or recognition or something, they just become like iconic. You kind of assume there's this like backstory, like the person worked really hard for it and they were very careful with how they composed it and everything. And yeah, I just try to keep my process a lot more fluid, and like I'm pretty swift when I photograph. So I don't like just stand there and shoot something I'm typically like, see something I notice, frame it up. Okay, there's no distractions, photograph it, move on. Like, yeah, it's very fluid.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I was imagining like, did you snap the, press the shutter and this nailed it off,
Yeah, there wasn't anything like that. I didn't even know.
No.
It's like I didn't even know what I had taken because I didn't even spend enough time to think about it. It was just like,
Yeah.
I'm drawn to this. I'm going to photograph it. I'm going to keep going. And I found a lot of
Mhm.
other things too that morning that ended up in the book as well. So yeah, just like not getting in your own way and trying to keep that whole process very fluid is going to help you not be distracted by photography and just like
Mhm.
really be more connected with your surroundings and everything you're looking at.
Yeah. And so this is a callback to when you were talking about 2016, 2017, I believe, when you were
Yeah,
feeling that burnout,
for sure.
and kind of made this shift in your mindset. Um, how has your relationship with burnout been since you made that shift?
Oh, I haven't experienced burnout at all, and
Yeah.
I'm out as much as I possibly can. But that's because, again, I'm not out to do photography. I'm not out to produce. Ironically, I'm more prolific like than ever. Like I create more images than I even know what to do with. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of this like strange advice that I give people. It's like just focus on like I think if you want to become a better nature photographer, and I think this applies in any field, if you're a brain surgeon or, you're a journalist, the best thing you can do is familiarize yourself with the subject matter you're specializing in as much as possible. So if you're a nature photographer, the best thing you can do is develop a deeper relationship with nature, uh, which could be by being outside, experiencing it firsthand. I think that's the best thing you can possibly do, but also reading books about nature, looking at photographs of nature, just constantly throughout the day, even if you're at home, paying attention to the light and how it interacts with things and
Mm.
familiarizing yourself with light. That's going to help
Mhm.
you know how to use it at any given moment in much more
Yeah.
effective ways. And so, yeah, I always recommend just becoming more acquainted and familiar with the subject. That's you're gonna be more informed and you're trying to represent it and convey it in your
Yeah.
photographs than you would be otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Great advice. Yeah. Thank you. And you've got one last pivot pixel here.
Yeah, this one is from Japan in the winter,
Mm.
this
Mm.
past winter. And it was just an amazing trip. I actually wasn't planning on going to Japan or anything. I had seen lots of incredible images from there from guys like Sho Hoshino, Mark Davis, Shinzo Maeda, Masaki Nagao, like too many photographers to name, Yuki Kamishima. I was just like, I don't need to go there. Like these guys are already doing it as best as it can possibly be done. And I'm enjoying their work and the service that they're providing.
Mhm.
But then I got invited out there and I was like, I'm always open to new things. So Mark Davis and Sho Hoshino asked me if I wanted to come out and that, they offered to take me around and stuff and host me. And I was like, okay, it's pretty hard to say no to that. But I really
Yeah.
wasn't anticipating anything in terms of photography because
Mhm.
again, like I just felt like it would be redundant, anything that I could produce. But I ended up realizing that Japan is like one of the coolest places in the world. And I just fell in love with it within
Mm.
days of being there. There was a strange familiarity about it. It's just like, those certain people where like you meet them, but it feels like you've known them forever. It was just one of those
Yes.
experiences. Like
Yeah.
me and Japan connected immediately, like on every
Mhm.
level.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, this definitely won't be the last time I come here. And it hasn't been. I was just there in the fall as well and had an absolutely amazing time. But yeah, it was just kind of a reminder, like to never be closed off to new experiences or maybe take your thoughts about like your kind of predetermined reactions, like to not take them too
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, I was totally proven wrong. And yeah, it's one of my favorite places ever now. So
Oh, that's so
it's
cool.
also a decent photograph, but
It is a beautiful photograph. Well, and kind of what stood out to me and what you were sharing is like, oh, it's already been done and it's been done well. So why you didn't put it this way, but sort of a why bother? It doesn't need to be
yeah.
done again.
And I had no expectations. I wouldn't say I put forth a lot of effort to specifically make anything unique from there.
Mm-hmm.
However, just like what I said before, just by allowing myself to be drawn to certain things and being open to whatever I was drawn to, I did make some images that I feel are different than what's been made before. And
Yeah.
that's, I don't know, that's a nice feeling. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very cool. Thanks for taking us on that journey through
sure.
those different eras, if you will, of where you've been with your photography. So yeah, so as we wrap up, I know, we mentioned at the top that nature is very important to you, and as is conservation. So
Yeah.
how does conservation intersect with your photography?
Well, I feel like if you are photographing something, it should be because you're very interested in it. And if you're interested in something, you should inevitably care about it very much
Oh,
and hope to preserve it as much as possible. And also like benefit it in some ways. There's some reciprocity. Like I get
mhm.
so much from my experiences in nature. It's something that I just naturally want to protect. And I feel like the human race will be better off for being able to have those experiences that I have. And so whenever I share images that I create, it is never to try and elevate people's perception of me as
Mm.
a photographer, a traveler, an artist, whatever. I really share them to try and elevate people's perception of the subject matter of the photograph. So if I'm sharing a photo of a cottonwood tree, I'm trying to show you the beauty of cottonwood trees and help you see them in a way that's going to make you appreciate them more and not just be like, oh, I know what cottonwood trees are. So like, I'm not going to pay attention to them. There's nothing else to see or find out about them. I want to make people more curious about the natural world and immerse themselves in it more. So that's like my primary means of conservation through my photography. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to help people connect with the natural world through my photographs so that they'll care about it more. And they will also want to fight for its protection, and they'll be better informed when there are certain bills being passed that will negatively impact certain landscapes, or they're trying to change the designation of a certain place. They
Yeah.
won't just see it as a name on a map. They'll actually be familiar with it, or at least understand why any kind of pristine nature in the world, no matter what it looks like, no matter how aesthetically pleasing it may be, is valuable. And there really is no hierarchy. Like we should be protecting
Yeah.
as much of the pristine, intact planet as we possibly can, because once it's gone, we can't replace it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the primary thing. I have worked with a lot of different organizations by typically by donating my images for them to use in campaigns and things like that. I also have my own initiatives where I'll write about certain topics or issues that affect certain places that I'm familiar with. Like I wrote a pretty extensive article about the Factory Butte area in southern Utah
Mm-hmm.
that like we all know has been pretty trashed by OHV
Hmm.
because they opened it up again in 19, and that has negatively impacted the ecosystem. But also, there's things in the future that I'm worried about because it's part of the largest oil shale reserve in the entire world. And the
Wow.
US is actually the number one. We have like the number one industry in the world for oil shale production. So we're constantly innovating technology to be able to extract oil shale from more places and refine it into oil. And so that's just going to open up more places. Like places are going to become more interesting because we're going to be able to extract more resources from them and they're going to become more
Yeah.
useful. So I'm trying to help people understand that so that we can already try to increase the protection now before it becomes a real target
Right.
by certain industries. And so um, I think there's a lot of different ways that you can use your photography as a means of helping with conservation. But it also comes down to you and your personal strengths. Like if you're not good at writing, or you don't enjoy writing, I would say, because I don't think I'm
Hmm.
very good at writing. Maybe that's not like the way you can.
I beg to differ, but that's okay.
I appreciate it. You don't see how much I struggle with it, so
Well, all we see is the end product, and it's very good.
thank you. It's very kind. But just lean into your strengths. I think everybody has
Hmm.
something unique to offer, and the
Yeah.
best thing you can do is do what you are most passionate about, because that's how you're gonna likely touch the most people and change
Yeah.
minds. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to know about that?
Yeah, just a quick follow up, and maybe this is a little bit more logistical, I suppose. But when you talked about like donating
Yeah.
images to various causes, did you approach them? Did they approach you? Like, how did you make that happen?
So back in 2018, the first time President Trump was in office, that administration dismantled Escalante National Monument into 3 different places. And that was done to exclude certain areas that were then left out of any protective boundaries. So they
Okay.
could create new leases for mining uranium, petroleum, and coal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love Escalante, and it's within 4 to 5 hours, depending on where I go from my house. It's where I'm going tomorrow. Like, it's just a place that I am in love with. And so I had a lot of photographs, but I also was like, oh, I'm going to focus on this place to photograph as much as I can. And I was going to a lot of areas that people don't really go to. And I was researching the issue so I could go to places that were being excluded from the boundaries. And I just started posting stuff and writing about it and everything to try and spread awareness. And then naturally, the Wilderness Society, Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, and Grand Staircase-Escalante Partners reached out to me, and they're like, hey, we would like to use some of your images. So they approached me in that situation, and they used my images for their campaigns and things, and had me write stuff for them as well. But like another organization I've worked with, Quiet Parks International, that happened because I read a book called One Square Inch of Silence, which I highly recommend, by Gordon Hempton, who's an acoustic ecologist. And that book was about protecting this area that has a 60-mile radius in the Hoh rainforest that was really near and dear to his heart from any intrusive noises. And the main ones were airplanes flying out of the SeaTac International Airport.
Yeah.
He was able to speak with the airlines and get them to agree to divert around that area so that you no longer hear airplanes within that 60-mile radius of One Square Inch of Silence. I was just blown away by that. And inevitably, by reading that book, I realized a lot of the places that I spend time in aren't as quiet as I thought they were, because all of a sudden I started noticing all the airplanes passing by every 5-10 minutes, depending where you are.
Yeah.
And preserving silence became such an important thing to me, which, you know, that was part of Space Stillness Silence, obviously. I reached out to him. I just sent him an email and I was like, hey, I'm a nature photographer working on this book. I really enjoyed your book. I'm really interested in the conservation work you're doing through Quiet Parks International. There's this place that I know of that I won't mention because it's very sacred to me and I don't like to promote it or anything, but I backpack there every summer. And it's the most remote wilderness we have in the United States. But I noticed there were airplanes flying overhead more often than I think is necessary, especially since it's not a huge area. It seems like they could divert around it. And so I spoke with him about increasing protection there and what we would need to do. And he was really cool. We had a Zoom call and he ended up sending me this equipment. So I backpacked out there with this equipment. I was recording the sound levels in different places to gather data. And then I sent it back to him. And, you know, we're going to use that data to try and, at the very least, keep it how it is so they don't have more flights going over there. So it won't become even more noisy. But hopefully be able to decrease the amount of flights that go over there so that the ecosystem isn't as impacted by those intrusive noises. But
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, just if you're interested in something, like, reach out to people that are working in that field, see what you can contribute and like be proactive. But
Yeah.
I think at the very least, you can be working to focus more on helping people connect with the subjects of your photographs rather than maybe trying to promote yourself or.
Right. Like, look at how great a photographer I am. It's much
Yeah.
more about, look at this amazing place.
Yeah. And that's my whole philosophy behind composition and everything. I just want people to have the fewest amount of distractions as possible within the scene to be able to connect with it and like transport them into that scene so they can immerse themselves in it as much as possible and, you know, start to build a connection. that
Yeah.
way. But
Yeah.
that's really what I'm always trying to do. Like, I just want to teleport you into that moment and create some kind of an experience you can have yourself.
Yeah. Well, in the images that you shared that folks saw during the intro to this video, I noticed that, but didn't put words to it because I was like, wow, whereas somebody else would have taken a picture of the entire tree, you're focused in on a particular part of it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to tell a smaller story in terms
I'd say
of
more
like that
concise.
scope.
That's the
But
word I
yeah,
would
more
use.
concise. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not smaller, but more
Because I
concise.
don't have any preference in terms of scale. Like, I have lots of wide angle images. It just depends on the scene and what it calls for. Like, what kind of lens, perspective, focal length will best convey the scene that I'm looking at, that
Yeah.
I'm connecting with.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like, typically that means zooming in on it and being a lot more specific. Sometimes it means, including more. It depends on the size of the subject matter and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, letting the scene dictate kind of the direction and approach as
always,
opposed
I
to trying
never
to
want to
force it.
impose upon it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. I just had a little coughing fit there.
Yeah, I
So
saw that.
forgive me. Actually, I was just so moved by the story of the silence, because I have heard like that this was years ago. And so I don't know if it's still true, but someone was trying to find, and maybe it was this gentleman, like one place on earth where you did not hear any human made sounds. And it was
Yeah.
virtually impossible.
Yes.
So really appreciate that and appreciate you, taking action. And the other thing I just wanted to tack onto that is, yeah, I think a lot of people would think of that like, oh, I should reach out or, what if, but they don't necessarily pick up the phone or send the email or,
Yeah.
just like lots of people have a book in them, but they never write the book. But you took that action. And I think we have to remember, like, don't dismiss or discount your voice just because you think, well, they're a big whatever and I'm just
Exactly.
over here. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like the main problem people have. Like, their hesitation is in feeling underqualified. Like, they haven't received a certification or,
Right.
It's like being a conservationist is a state of mind. So it's just how you see things. It's about your motivations, and it's not something that people invite you to do ever. And I've received invitations to collaborate with people because I've started making through my own efforts, things will just naturally develop from there. So you got to start somewhere, and anybody can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for modeling that so beautifully. And I hope that anybody who's listening to this, if you have that little spark of an idea or something that's been niggling at you, that maybe this inspires you to take at least one small step towards doing something that will help you to manifest whatever it is that you might be imagining. So, Eric, what is the best way for folks to connect with you?
Well, I teach workshops year round. I started doing those again and have enjoyed it tremendously. I took a break to focus on space, stillness, silence, and personal projects and family and stuff like that. But now I'm teaching like 7-8 workshops a year. So I'd invite you to come on one of those if you'd like to experience, a special place to me and kind of see how I approach things, and definitely learn a lot about how you can convey scenes better and show the things that you connect with so they can impact other people. I have my books, Space, Stillness, Silence is still in stock. That's the thing I'm most proud of still that I've produced. It's a really special body of work in terms of the imagery and the writing. And I have my other book series, which is a little bit more economical through Kozu Books. And by the time this comes out, that book will already be shipping. That's Moments Within the Earth. That's the second volume.
Nice.
And there's tutorial videos on my website if you want to learn about post-processing or composition or lighting. That's bennettfilm.com. Admittedly, I'm not super active on social media because I find it very distracting, and I like to be very present as much as possible in my life. So I'm on there as much as I need to be. But if you want to talk to me about something, feel free to email me and I'll respond whenever I have time.
And you have a newsletter?
I do, yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
true?
you can
Okay, so that might be another
subscribe to that on
way.
my website.
Yeah, great. Well, I'll make sure that there are links to all of that, including the books and the links to the workshops and whatnot in the show description. So, as they say, like, look down there and you'll find them. But
Perfect.
thank you, Eric, so much for sharing so generously. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully this didn't disappoint, and whatever you were excited to talk to me about, we
Oh,
covered.
it exceeded. It exceeded. So I'm I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.